Let's spend a few minutes looking at the original U.S. Constitution. You have an annotated copy in your text that gives you an explanation of the original language. What I'm going to provide for you here is an audio and visual review. Preamble of the Constitution. We the people of the United States, we the people. In order to form a more perfect union, remember the Articles of Confederation wasn't very perfect. Establish justice, so we have a federal judicial system. Ensure domestic tranquility. In looking at Shays' Rebellion, there wasn't much domestic tranquility at the time. Provide for the common defense, so that there was an army and a navy. Promote the general welfare, so that the government has enough power to control the economy. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity means secure the blessings of liberty to our children. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Article 1, the legislative branch. Remember, the founders intended that the legislative branch would be the superior branch among the three. In Section 1, all legislative powers are vested in a bicameral two-house Congress consisting of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Section 2 goes through the qualifications to be a member of the House. You're elected for 2 years. You have to be at least 25 years of age when elected, and you have to have been a citizen for at least 7 years. Membership of the House is by population, part of the Great Compromise. At least one representative per state. There's 435 representatives today, apportioned every 10 years after the census. Vacancies that may occur in the House of Representatives are filled by the state's governor. In Section 2, they decide who is going to be the presiding officer. That is the Speaker of the House. The House has sole power of impeachment to bring accusations of high crimes and misdemeanors against a member of the executive branch or the judicial branch. The Senate is set up by Section 3. 2 senators per state who serve for 6 years. You rotate 1/3 of the Senate every 2 years. Senators have to be 30 years of age and have to have been a citizen for 9 years. The Vice President of the United States is President of the Senate, who only votes in case of tie. Most of the time, the Senate is presided over by the President pro tempore. The Senate has the sole power to try impeachments. If a member of the executive or judicial branch is impeached, the Senate sits as a trial jury, so to speak. It takes 2/3 of the senators to remove a member of the executive or judicial branch. Section 4 sets up elections for Congress. Elections are held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years. And the Constitution requires that the Congress has to meet at least once a year. Of course, most of the time they are in session all year long nowadays. But in January, when they first meet after the Christmas recess, the leadership of the Congress sets the calendar for the next year. Section 5 determines that Congress is the judge of elections to their own body. It determines what is going to constitute a quorum, usually at least one more than half. Both the House and the Senate can expel even an elected member with a 2/3 vote. Hasn't happened very often in our history. It sets up in Section 5 that a record of the day's proceedings must be kept every day, and that's called a congressional record. And you can access that online nowadays. And it sets up that one house cannot adjourn unless they have permission of the other chamber. Section 6 determines compensation. Now that with the 27th Amendment, Congress cannot increase its salary until a new election has taken place. But compensation today is about $135,000 in salary and perks. They have to have transportation back and forth to their district. There are perks involved with staff And depending upon how large in the Senate, how large their state is, they'll have more staff members paid for by the taxpayers. You have a privilege from arrest. While you are in session in DC, you cannot be arrested for misdemeanors. They're not going to be allowed to stay away from their duties just for getting a jaywalking ticket or something. And while debate is happening on the House and Senate floor, you are immune from slander suits from other senators or other representatives. In Section 6, it describes that you cannot, as a member of Congress, hold office in the executive or the judiciary. Section 7 relates that all revenue bills must begin in the House. So any bills that have to do with raising taxes or spending money have to begin in the House. Bill becomes law if it's signed by the President of the United States within 10 days, or a presidential veto is overridden by 2/3 vote in each chamber of Congress, or the president doesn't want to be embarrassed by having his veto overridden and lets it sit on his desk for 10 days. Congressional resolutions for such as statehood or to decide on a key point for appointments to the judiciary, resolutions have to have the signature of the president. The enumerated powers in Congress. Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 through 16. These are specific powers granted to the United States Congress. Have the power to tax. You gave them the power to tax in Clause 1. Duties on goods, imports, in the Constitution called imposts, excise taxes like today on gasoline, playing cards, and such. You gave them the power to borrow money in Clause 2, to regulate interstate commerce in Clause 3, to set the rules of naturalization and bankruptcy. Congress has the power to coin money and fix the standards of weights and measures in the United States, to punish counterfeiting of money and stamps, to establish a post office for the United States government, to issue copyrights and patents, to create courts inferior to the Supreme Court. So you have the United States District Courts and the U.S. Courts of Appeals, to punish piracies and crimes committed on the high seas. Congress has the power to declare war. You know that since World War II, Congress has not declared war. Military excursions that we've had since World War II have been executive orders with permission, I guess you could say, of the Congress. Congress has the right to raise an army and a navy and to regulate the military, to organize and supply militia controlled by the states, that's called the National Guard, and to establish the seat of government, the District of Columbia. Clause 18. After looking at all the enumerated powers, they thought, well, what if we forgot something? So now it says that the Congress has the power to make all laws necessary and proper for carrying into execution the enumerated powers. So the question is that necessary and proper? Is that convenient and expedient? Well, examples of using necessary power, if they have the power to create a military, they should have the power to create an air force once airplanes were invented, to have a national bank to control the money supply, to set up the Internal Revenue Service and the Securities and Exchange Commission, and all those alphabet agencies. Necessary and proper clause is oftentimes used by Congress, and a loose interpretation of the Commerce Clause for controlling interstate commerce to vastly increase the powers of the United States Congress at the, shall we say, the disdain of the states.